You know, on your board exams, some topics just feel like they're designed to trip you up. And post-splenectomy sepsis, it's definitely one of them. So today, we're going to defuse those traps, and we're going to focus on the critical timing rules that can absolutely make or break a question. Okay, let's kick things off with the absolute core concept. I want you to think of your spleen as a high-security filter, right? Its main job is to hunt down and just obliterate bacteria that have this thick, slippery outer coating, a capsule. And when that filter's gone, man, those coated killers have a wide open highway to invade.
And this full-scale invasion, it's got a name, OPSI, or Overwhelming Post-Splenectomy Infection. Now, this isn't some slow burn. This is a catastrophic, fulminant event that can become life-threatening in hours. I mean, it is lightning fast. So on an exam, the second you see the word asplenic, your brain has to immediately fire on all cylinders and think about the risk of OPSI.
So who are these coated killers we're talking about? Well, they're the encapsulated bacteria, and the mnemonic you have got to burn into your brain is SHiN. Streptococcus pneumoniae is without a doubt the #1 threat, but Haemophilus influenzae and Neisseria meningitis are right on its heels. These three are the main bad guys in our post-splenectomy defense strategy.
Okay, a quick but really important heads up here. What we're talking about today is all geared toward nailing these concepts for your exams. For real-world clinical practice, you should always be guided by the most up-to-date institutional protocols and, of course, expert consultations.
All right, so we know the risk, right? We know what we're up against. So how do we protect these folks? Well, this is where the board exams love to get you. And it all boils down to one critical number, 14. Let's break down this 14-day rule for vaccinations.
Just picture this scenario. It's a classic. A trauma patient, maybe a car accident, and they need an emergency splenectomy. The intern, who's totally eager to do the right thing, grabs the pneumococcus and meningococcus vaccines. Is giving them right now, right after the operation, the correct call? So, what do you think? Is that the right move?
No, absolutely not. And here is the logic. It's a great analogy. You cannot train an army during a civil war. In an emergency, the body is in this state of profound physiological shock. I mean, your immune system is just completely swamped, you know? It's in survival mode. It literally cannot mount an effective response to a vaccine. So the rule is crystal clear. You have to wait at least 14 days after an emergency splenectomy. But here's where it gets really interesting and where the trap is set for you on the exam. It's how this contrasts with an elective or planned splenectomy, say for a blood disorder like ITP. The logic is completely flipped. In that case, you vaccinate 14 days before the surgery. Why? Because this gives the immune system, with the spleen still on board, plenty of time to build up this massive army of antibodies before you take its command center away.
So listen, here is the absolute bottom line for your exam. When you get a question about a patient who just had an emergency splenectomy and it asks for the next best step for their immunizations, the answer is to wait. Do not fall for the trap answer that says, administer vaccines now. The correct move is to schedule them for 14 days post-op, period.
All right, so we've got the timing of prevention locked down. But what if the question tries to be sneaky? What if it doesn't even tell you the patient had a splenectomy? They might just give you a picture. So let's look at the microscopic clue that gives the whole thing away. The smear signature.
Yeah, this is what I call the smear signature trap. See, the test raters know you're trained to see a blood smear and immediately think about anemia. But this little finding, it's a signal to pivot your thinking entirely. You stop looking for red cell production problems and start looking for a spleen problem.
So what is it? What's that one little clue you can spot inside a red blood cell that basically screams, hey, the spleen's filter is offline?
It's the Howell-Jolly body. And honestly, this just beautifully illustrates the spleen's function. As young red blood cells are maturing, they're supposed to kick out their nucleus, but sometimes a tiny piece or remnant gets left behind. A healthy spleen spots this and pits it out. It's just like taking the pit out of an olive. It's this quality control check. So if you see those little blue dots on a smear, it's game over. You know the spleen is either gone or it's not working. And that last part, or it's not working, well, that brings us to a really crucial and kind of sneaky concept. A patient can have a spleen that's physically right there in their body, but it's completely non-functional. This is the invisible threat of functional asplenia. And for your boards, the classic #1 cause here is going to be sickle cell disease. Over years and years of repeated sickling crises, the spleen takes a beating. It suffers countless tiny strokes, these microinfarctions, until it becomes this tiny, scarred-up, non-functional nub. This process is called autosplenectomy. It's like the body performs surgery on itself over many years. So that sickle cell patient, they're basically asplenic and carry that exact same huge risk of OPSI. Okay, time to lock this all in. Let's do a rapid-fire review to really seal this logic down tight so it's second nature on exam day. You ready? Let's do this. Okay, first up, primary infectious threat, encapsulated bacteria, SHiN. Emergency splenectomy vaccine timing, 2 weeks after surgery. Elective splenectomy vaccine timing, 2 weeks before surgery. The key smear finding, that little blue nuclear dot, Howell-Jolly body. And finally, the critical prophylaxis for kids after surgery, daily penicillin, often until they're at least 5 years old, sometimes longer. Super high yield point. And boom, there you have it. That is the core framework you need for any post-splenectomy question that they could possibly throw at you. So, you've totally secured the perimeter. The defenses against those outside invaders are locked down. But what happens when the real danger isn't from the outside storming the gates, but from a complete meltdown from within? I mean, are you ready for when the problem isn't a missing filter, but one that's literally exploding from a chemical storm? When the body's systems are completely overwhelmed, not by bacteria, but by an explosion of cellular junk from chemotherapy? When you've got to manage the absolute chaos of tumor lysis syndrome? Well, that's where we're headed next. I'll see you there.